Hello everyone, today I'm going to read about Magic Treehouse Chapter 17 tonight on the Titanic by Mary Pop Osborne. Chapter 1, A New Mission. Jack opened his eyes. It was a stormy night. The rain tapped hard on his window pane. "Do you hear what the rain is saying?" said a voice. Jack turned on his lamp and he stood in his doorway. She wore her rain poncho over her pajamas and held a flashlight. "It's saying come now," she said. "You're not," said Jack. "Listen, just listen," said Annie. Jack listened. The rain did seem to be tapping out. "Come now, come now." "We have to go to the tree house," said Annie. "Something important is about to happen." "Now," said Jack. Jack didn't want to leave his warm, cozy room, but he had a feeling Annie was right. Something important was about to happen. "You coming?" she said. Yeah, he said. He climbed out of bed. "Just put on your rain poncho," said Annie. Jack threw his rain poncho over his pajamas. He pulled on his sneakers and grabbed his backpack. "Don't forget your Master Librarian's card," said Annie. "I have mine with me." Jack put on the card with the glowing letters ML on it inside his backpack. "I'm ready," he said. Jack and Annie went quietly down the stairs. Then they slid out the door into the chilly, damp night. The storm had eased up. Rain fell gently as they ran up the street. The wet ground glistened in the beam of the flashlight. They headed into the Frog Creek wood. Wind blew the trees, shaking water to the ground. Jack shivered. He wiped raindrops off his glasses. "Brrr," said Annie. "I'm cold." "Me too," said Jack. As they kept walking, Annie pointed the flashlight up into the trees. "There it is," she said. Her light had found the treehouse. "Morgan," Jack called. There was no answer. "I wonder what's wrong," said Annie. "I was sure she'll be here." "Let's go and see," said Jack. Annie grabbed the rope ladder and started climbing. Jack followed. Rain dropped from the trees onto the poncho. They climbed into the treehouse. Annie shined her light into each corner. The first 3 corners were empty. Then the flashlight beam hit the fourth. Jack and Annie gasped with surprise. Sitting in the corner was a small dog. He looked like a terrier puppy. It had scruffy light brown fur. He stared sadly at Jack and Annie. "Oh," whispered Annie. "Where did you come from?" said Jack. Annie patted the dog's head. He wagged his tail. "He's so cute," said Annie. "He looked like a little teddy bear. Hi, Teddy." Teddy was actually a good name for him, Jack thought. "Where did you come from, Teddy?" he asked. Then the little dog went. "Don't be sad," said Annie. "Everything's okay." How did he get up here?" Jack asked. "I don't know, but I bet Morgan has something to do with it," said Annie. Jack's gaze fell on a piece of paper lying on the floor. "I think you're right," he said. He picked up the paper, and it was fancy writing that said, "This little dog is under a spell and needs your help. To free him, you must be given 4 special things. A gift from a ship lost at sea, a gift from the Perrier Blue, a gift from a forest far away, a gift from a kangaroo. Be wise, be brave, be careful. Morgan. P.S. Your Master Librarian's card won't help on this mission. Just be yourself and will be well." "What kind of spell do you think Teddy is under?" said Annie. "Who knows?" said Jack. "Poor thing," said Annie. She patted the dog's head. He licked her hand. "It looks like we have to take 4 trips," said Jack. Teddy trotted over to a book. He pushed it with his nose. "Look," said Annie. "I bet that will take us on the first trip." She picked up the book that the little dog had chosen. "Good job, Teddy," she said. The title of the book was The Unsinkable Ship. "Well, at least that's good," said Jack. "The ship won't sink, even if it is lost." "Ready, Teddy?" asked Annie. "Arf, arf," he answered. Jack pointed at the cover of the book. "I wish we could go there," he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2, The Unsinkable Ship. "Arf, arf!" Jack opened his eyes. He shivered wherever they were now. It was cold, very cold. Teddy barked again. "Shh," said Jack. Annie shined a flashlight on her clothes. "Wow, we're dressed like old-fashioned kids," she said. Instead of pajamas and a poncho, she wore a sailor dress and a long wool coat. Jack had on an overcoat and knee-length pants with long socks. His backpack had turned to leather. He also had on a shirt and tie. "Where are we?" he wondered aloud. Jack and Annie looked out the window. The moonlit sky glittered with stars. There was a soft wind and the sound of water lapping. The treehouse seemed to be resting on a wooden deck between two giant columns. Jack looked up and saw smoke coming out of the column. We must have landed on the ship between the smokestacks, he said. Then Jack looked straight ahead and saw a box high in the air, near the front of the ship. That must be the lookout nest, he said. Jack sat back in the treehouse and opened their book, and he handed him the flashlight. Let's find out where we are, he said. He turned to a picture of the huge ocean liner. By the light of the flashlight, he read, "Late at night on April 14, 1912, an English ocean liner was making her first voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. She was going to New York City, carrying 2,200 passengers. The ship was 4 city blocks long. Most people believed the ship was unsinkable." "Oh man, we're in 1912, said Jack. He pulled out his notebook and wrote, "April 14, 1912. "This ship is huge," said Annie. "How will we ever find a gift to help free Teddy?" "You can't go looking for a gift," said Jack. "You have to wait until someone gives it to you." "Right," said Annie with a sigh. "Well, I guess we just have to be ourselves like Morgan said, and maybe we'll get lucky." "This is hard," said Jack. The little dog whined. "Don't worry, Teddy," said Annie. "We'll free you from your spell." Just then a shout came from the lookout nest. "Iceberg ahead!" Jack and Annie turned back to the window, just in time to see a huge iceberg looming out of the sea. The iceberg was dark with a fringe at white of the top, and it was right in front of the ship. Jack felt a jolt. Then he heard a grinding sound. The ship was scraping against a mountain of ice. "Arf! Arf!" Teddy barked. "Shh! Don't be scared," said Annie. To pick up the dog up and hug him, the scraping sound stopped. The ship slid past the iceberg until they lost sight of it. The night was calm again. "See," Annie said to Teddy, "it was just a little bump. This ship is unsinkable." But Jack was worried. "Wait, I have to read more about this," he said. "Don't read now, Jack," said Annie. "It's time to get the gift. Come on, Teddy." She picked up the little dog and the flashlight, and she climbed out the house window. "Hey, don't take the flashlight," said Jack, but Annie was gone. "Annie," called Jack. He heard a soft "Yikes," and he stuck her head back in the treehouse. "Bad news," she said in a whisper. "I think you better see this." Jack threw his stuff into his knapsack. He put it on and climbed out the window. Annie was standing by the ship's railing holding Teddy. Without a word, he shined a flashlight on a life preserver hanging from the railing, and big letter bore the word RMS Titanic. Chapter 3. SOS. Jack stared at the name of the ship. "You know what happened to the Titanic, don't you?" he said softly. Annie nodded. "It hit an iceberg and sank," she said. "But I don't get it. I thought the ship was unsinkable." "That's what people thought when the Titanic was built," said Jack. "But they were wrong." Suddenly, steam gushed out of the ship's smokestacks, and the engines cut off. The Titanic stopped moving. "We'd better go home," said Jack. "There's nothing we can do here. We'll have to find another lost ship, a safer one." "No, we have to stay and help," said Annie. "We can escape in the treehouse any time we want." "But what can we do?" said Jack. "This ship's going to sink no matter what. We can't change history, and we can take anyone in our time with us." "Yeah, but maybe there's some way we can help," said Annie. "How?" said Jack. "I don't know," said Annie. Let's look around." Holding Teddy, she disappeared down a small stairway. Jack followed her to a lower level. Annie put Teddy down on the deck. The dog sniffed the chunk of ice that had fallen off the iceberg. The ship seemed strangely empty. "Where is everyone?" Annie asked. "Maybe they're still asleep," said Jack. "They probably don't even know the ship hit something." Annie and Jack started toward the front of the Titanic. "Come on, Teddy," said Annie. The little dog scrambled after them. They passed around windows of different rooms of the ship. Jack looked through them as they went by. They saw exercise bikes and rowing machines in one room. In another, there were palm trees, bamboo chairs, and tables. Next, they saw a library filled with books. "This ship is like a town," said Jack. Near the end of the little deck, they peeked through another round window. Inside the little room, a man was wearing earphones. They heard a clicking noise as the man tapped a lever on a black box. "What's he doing?" whispered Annie. Jack shrugged. Another man stood nearby. He had a white beard and wore a fancy uniform. "Send an international call for help," he ordered the man with headphones. "Tell all ships close by to come at once. We're sinking." "Yes, Captain," said the man. "Great! They're calling for help," Annie whispered. Jack shook his head. "I don't think help will come," he said. He shined the flashlight on the book and found a picture of the radio operator. He read quietly to Annie. After the Titanic hit the iceberg at 11:40 p.m., the ship's radio operator sent out an SOS. An SOS is the International Distress Signal and Morse code. Unfortunately, the only ship near the Titanic had turned off its radio for the night. All the other ships who received the message were too far away to help. When the Titanic sank around 2:20 a.m., she was all alone. "That's terrible," said Annie. "I wonder what time is it now," said Jack. "I don't know," said Annie. Jack pulled out his notebook and wrote, "SOS sends out, Titanic sank at 2:20 a.m. "He's leaving," whispered Annie. "Hide," whispered Jack. He and Annie moved quickly into the shadows. The captain stepped out into the deck. "Tell the men to start loading the lifeboat now," said the captain. The captain ordered a deckhand. "Yes, Captain," the man answered. The captain and the deckhand left. Annie turned to Jack. "At least it's good," she whispered. "Everyone can get into the lifeboat." "I don't think it's good enough," said Jack. He read from the book again. On the Titanic, there were 20 lifeboats to save all the passengers. The ship needed twice as many, but with all the confusion on board, a number of the lifeboats were not even full when they left the ship. Many third-class passengers did not have a chance to get into any of the lifeboats because they were on the lower deck and didn't know where to go. Jack wrote in his notebook, "Need twice as many lifeboats." "Hey, I know what we can do to help," said Annie. "What?" asked Jack. "We can help someone find a lifeboat," she said. "You're right," said Jack. "With our books, we can find our way to a lower deck." He turned to the page to a map of the ship. He and Annie studied it. "We'll start at the grand stairway," said Jack. He traced a path with his fingers. "Then we'll go down to the third-class cabins this way." "Good plan," said Annie. Jack looked back through the door. The radio operator was still tapping out his messenger over and over and over. "SOS," whispered Jack. He took a deep breath. "Okay," he said. "Let go." Chapter 4. Put on your lifeboat belt. Jack and Annie slipped through a door of the boat deck. Teddy was at their heels. "Wow," breathed Annie. "Arf, arf," Teddy barked. They were at the top of the empty grand stairway. It was beautiful. It was made of dark glossy wood. A huge diamond with a light hung above it. At the top of the stairs was a fancy clock. The hands of the clock were at 12:20. "Oh man, it's 20 minutes after midnight," said Jack. "The ship's going down in 2 hours." They hurried down the carpeted steps and into the first-class hallway. Teddy followed along. Jack looked at the map in the book. "This is the stateroom," he said. "This hall will take us to the third-class open deck." "Hey, look," said Annie. "The floor's slanting down." Jack caught his breath. She was right. "That means the front of the ship is already sinking," he said. Just then a man in a white uniform came down the hall. He knocked on the doors. "Put on your life belt at once and come up to the boat deck," he called. Men and women stumbled out of their rooms. They were elegant robes made of shiny cloth and velvet. "What's going on?" a woman asked. "There's been a little accident," the man in the uniform said cheerfully. "Oh, how silly," said the woman. "And not silly," said Annie. "Do what he says." "Arf, arf," Teddy barked as if he agreed with Annie. "Shh, Teddy," said Jack. He picked up the little dog. Then he and Annie hurried down the hall. They crossed the third-class open deck. When more people were standing, these people were not dressed in fancy clothes. They mostly wore plain, dark coats. They didn't seem worried either. They were all joking and laughing. Jack and Annie slipped through the crowd. They went into a big smoky room. 4 men were playing cards. A woman played the piano. A young couple danced to the music. "Put on your life belt and go up to the boat deck," Annie shouted. The people looked at Annie in surprise. The card player smiled at her. She opened her mouth to yell again, but Jack pulled her out the door. "Come on," he said. "We have to get down to the third-class cabins before it's too late." They hurried down another hall, then they climbed down another stairway. Jack carried Teddy the whole way. At the bottom of the stairs, they rounded a corner and they both gasped. The floor was really slanting down here, and water sloshed at the end of a hallway. The Titanic is sinking, said Jack. But no one understands, said Annie. I know, said Jack. It made him feel terribly sad. Teddy whined. Jack buried his face in the little dog's fur. Come on, said Annie. She began banging on the cabin door. The door swung open. The cabins were all empty. The people from this hallway must be the ones up here that long, said Jack. Maybe we should go down to the lower deck. He started to walk down that back to the stairs, but Teddy began barking furiously. What's wrong with him? Said Jack. I don't know, said Annie. Suddenly the dog leaped out of Jack's arms. He charged down the hall. He was running straight toward the water. Watch out, cried Jack. He and Annie ran after Teddy. The dog began barking at the closed door. The door opened. A very small boy peeked out. Chapter 5. William and Lucy. The boy wore a nightshirt. He had red hair and freckles. He looked about 4 years old. He rubbed his eyes sleepily. Then he saw Teddy. Puppy, he said with a huge smile. He threw his arms around the little dog's neck. Teddy licked his face. Come back to bed, William. Come back to bed, William, a voice called from inside the room. Come out, and he shouted. It's an emergency. A moment later, the door opened wider. A girl in a long white nightgown peeked out. She had red hair and freckles too. She was tall and thin. She looked to be about 12 or 13 years old. Hello, she said. She put her arm around the little boy. I'm Lucy O'Malley. This is my brother William. I'm Annie, said Annie. And this is my brother Jack. Get your parents and tell them to come with us, said Jack. Lucy looked confused. Our parents aren't here. They're in New York, she said. We're on our way to them. Listen, the Titanic has hit an iceberg, said Annie. We'll take you to a lifeboat. What do you mean? Said Lucy. The ship's sinking, said Annie. Look! She pointed to the water at the end of the hall. Oh no, cried Lucy. Don't be afraid, said Jack. Just get your coat and your life belt. We don't have much time. Lucy nodded. Then she went back inside the room and came out with their things. Lucy pulled on her coat and her life belt, and he helped William put on his on. Let go, said Jack. Wait on, Teddy fit in your knapsack, said Annie. Try, said Jack, and he flipped the little dog into the leather knapsack on Jack's back. Only Teddy's front paws and head struck out. Stay there, honey, said Annie. She kissed Teddy on the nose. Jack didn't feel any extra weight in his knapsack. The little dog felt as light as air. Wait, I forgot something, said Lucy. We don't have time, started Jack. But Lucy rushed back into the room. Hurry, shouted Annie. When Lucy came out, Jack saw her slip something into her coat pocket. Then she grabbed William's hand. Ready, said Jack. Suddenly, he felt freezing water brush against his shoes. He looked down. The green sea water was slowly moving down the hall. Arf, arf, barked Teddy from Jack's pack. Run, said Annie. Chapter 6. Women and Children First. Annie led everyone down the hall to the stairs, away from the cold sea water, as she and Lucy helped William up the stairs. Jack and Teddy followed. Halfway up the staircase, Teddy let out a yelp. Jack looked back. The water was creeping up the stairs, step by step. Come on, Jack, Annie shouted. Jack ran up the rest of the stairs. He and Annie led William and Lucy through the smoky room. The men were still playing cards. To the lifeboat! Annie yelled at the card players. Right now, hurry! The men smiled at her again. Little girl, one said with a laugh. Even if this ship does sink, it will take all night. There's plenty of time for everyone on board to be rescued. Indeed, many ships are on their way right now, another man said in a soothing voice. There's nothing to worry about. Not true, said Annie. Lucy turned to Jack. This doesn't sound so bad after all, he said. It is bad. Please trust me, said Jack. We have to keep going. They went outside. The crowd on the third-class deck had grown. Many wore lifebelts, but no one had seen very worried yet. Jack and Annie pulled Lucy and William along. They hurried through the crowd and down the first-class hall. They came to the end and trooped up the staircase. On the top deck, the Titanic was as bright as a Christmas tree. A band played lively music. With a heat and rush of light, a rocket straight into the sky. It had made a loud boom. Then it burst into many colored balls. Shivering in the cold, William laughed and clapped. Fireworks, he said. Lucy smiled at Jack and Annie. This is a trick, isn't it? She said. You brought us to a party. No, it isn't, said Jack. Don't you remember the water downstairs? Lucy's smile faded. Women and children first, someone shouted. That you, said Annie. Come on. She pulled Lucy and William toward the lifeboat. Chapter 7. The Gift. The lifeboat was waiting to go down. It looked tiny as it swung on the cables at the side of the big ship. The water below looked back. Get in, a uniformed man shouted. No, no, said William. He hid his face against Lucy's coat. Lucy was shaking her head. I'd rather stay here, she said to Jack and Annie. Jack understood. The brightly lit Titanic seemed so solid as they compared to the little lifeboat. You can't stay here, said Annie. The Titanic is going to sink soon. Very soon, said Jack. Lucy kept shaking her head. Jack saw tears in her eyes. Lucy, we're telling the truth, said Jack. You and William are in great danger. You have to be brave now, said Annie, for your brother's sake. Lucy straightened up and tried to smile. All right, she said, I will. This way, a man called. Women and children, this way, you four. He pointed at them. Get in, said Jack. He gently pushed Lucy and William forward. Goodbye, Lucy, said Annie. Goodbye, William. Lucy looked surprised. You're not coming? She asked. No, we're going home another way, said Annie. Oh dear, said Lucy. I hope you'll be safe. We will, don't worry, said Jack. Wait, said Lucy. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a silver watch on the chain. This is a gift for your both of you, she said. It's our father's watch. We carried it on the voyage for good luck. I have a feeling that the two of you were our good luck tonight. Jack looked at the watch as Lucy put it around Annie's neck. The time on the watch was 1:50. There were only 30 minutes left. Hurry, hurry, he said. Jack and Annie watched as the big man picked Lucy up and swung her into the little boat. Then he picked William up and put him in Lucy's lap. Bye, cried Annie. She stepped forward to blow a kiss. Just then the man picked Annie up. No, shouted Annie. Into the lifeboat, my dear, the man said, and he tossed Annie into the lifeboat. No, no, cried Jack. Then the man reached for him too. Jack jumped away just in time. Annie, he yelled, get out! And he tried to climb out of the lifeboat. Let me out, she cried. Arf, arf, Teddy barked from over Jack's shoulder. The lifeboat jerked. It started creaking down toward the dark, cold sea. Come back, Jack called. But there was nothing he could do as Annie disappeared from sight. Chapter 8. Every man for himself. Annie, cried Jack. Let me out, he heard Annie shout, but the lifeboat kept going down. Wait for me, came a loud voice. Wait for me. A woman in a fur coat peered at the railing. She nearly threw herself over the side of the ship. Stop, the uniformed man called. Bring the boat back up for Lady Blackwell. Slowly the lifeboat was brought back up. Jack pushed his way forward. The lifeboat came even with the ship. Jack reached out of Annie. He grabbed his hand. He pulled her back onto the sinking ship. Room for one more, Annie shouted to the Lady Blackwell. Then she and Jack took off before anyone could catch them. They ran up the slanting deck, and he stopped and peered over the railing. Jack looked too. They saw Lucy and William's little lifeboat creaking, then toward the Atlantic Ocean. It bridged the glassy black water, then it floated off the darkness, and he waved. Bye, William, bye, Lucy, she shouted. Thank you for your gift. She held up the watch that hung from her neck. Then she and Jack looked at it. The time was 2:05. Only 15 minutes left, said Annie. We have to get back to the treehouse now, said Jack. Let's climb the stairs to the smokestacks. Suddenly, the front of the ship dipped down into the sea. Deck chairs started to slide past Jack and Annie. The band played a slow, calm song. It sounded like a church hymn, but the crowd started to panic. People pushed and shouted, trying to get to a safer part of the ship. Is every man for himself? The captain shouted to all of his crew. The men all stopped what they were doing and ran up the deck. Jack and Annie ran too. They dodged slightly tables and chairs. They reached the chairs that led to the smokestacks. They grabbed the railing and pulled themselves up the steps. The ship flipped further. Get to those smokestacks, cried Jack. They slipped and crawled down the deck, but when they got to the smokestacks, Jack and Annie looked around wildly. The magic treehouse was gone. Chapter 9. Time stops. Where is it? Shouted Annie. The front of the Titanic sank deeper into the sea. Jack and Annie fell forward. They grabbed the railing and held on for their life. Maybe the treehouse fell into the ocean, shouted Jack. A great roar started coming from the ship. Jack imagined everything crashing forward, all the furniture, the chase bicycle, the grand clock on the staircase. He looked down. A giant wave of water rolled over the lower deck. Jack imagined water flooding the third-class corridor, the car door room, and the grand staircase. He closed his eyes, waiting to be washed away. Arf! Arf! The barking came from a distance. "Teddy!" cried Annie. Jack had forgotten all about the little dog holding on to the railing. He used one hand and to pull off his knapsack. Teddy wasn't there. There was more frantic barking. "Where's Teddy?" cried Jack. "He's calling us," shouted Annie. "We can't look for him," shouted Jack. "We call off the ship." Teddy barked and barked. "He's close by," said Annie. She held onto the railing and moved slowly down the steep deck. "Annie!" cried Jack. Suddenly the light on the Titanic went out. The world was pitch dark. I couldn't see Annie at all. "Annie!" shouted. He tried to move down the deck too, but the ship toppled again. Jack slipped and fell. He rolled until he crashed into a smokestack. "Jack!" cried Annie. "Here! Here!" Teddy kept barking. The back of the Titanic was rising out of the ocean. The front of the ship was going down. Jack tried to go around the smokestack without falling. In the dark, he could barely see the treehouse. It was stuck between a smokestack and a railing. It was lying on its side. Annie and Teddy were looking out the window. "Teddy's barking, let me hear," cried Annie. "Hurry, Jack!" Jack crawled around the smokestack. He held out his hand and he grabbed it. She pulled him into the treehouse. Teddy licked his face. "I wish we could go home," shouted Annie, pointing at the Pennsylvania book. Jack heard a loud crack. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 10. A Touch of Magic. "Oh man," whispered Jack. He was lying on the floor of the treehouse. He was wearing his pajamas and rain poncho again. "You okay?" Annie asked. "Yeah, you?" said Jack. "My heart beating really fast," said Annie. "Mine too," said Jack. He thought of the Titanic sinking into the cold black sea. His eyes filled with tears. It was terribly sad. Annie nodded. Jack could see tears on her cheeks. Teddy licked Jack's face. "Hey," said Jack, "how did you get out of my knapsack?" Teddy whined. Jack and Annie stroked his furry head and ears. "I think he has a touch of magic," said Annie. Slowly, Jack sat up. "He saved our life," he said. "And now we have the first gift to break the spell he's under," said Annie. They turned on their flashlight. She shined it on the silver pocket watch that hung from the neck. "Lucy's gift," she said. The watch had stopped. The hands were at 2:20. Jack was silent. Then he sighed. "That's exactly when the ship went down," he said. Annie looked at him. "I guess that when a time stopped for the Titanic," she said. Jack nodded, and he put the pocket watch on top of Morgan's notes. "A gift from a ship lost at sea," she said softly. They were both quiet. Then Jack took off his glasses and wiped the tears from his eyes. Annie stood up. She took a deep breath. "I'm ready to go," she said. "Let's put Teddy in your pack and take him home with us." She shined her flashlight around the tree house. "Teddy," she said. There was no sign of the little dog. "He's not here," said Annie. "What are you talking about?" said Jack. "We were just patting him." "He's up at his magic tricks again," said Annie. She sighed. "We'll have to go home without him." "But what happened to him?" said Jack. "I don't know," said Annie, "but I have a feeling we'll see him again soon." She started down the rope ladder. Jack looked around the treehouse one last time. "Teddy," he said, but the treehouse was quiet. Jack pulled on his backpack and climbed down the rope ladder. Annie was waiting for him. Without a word, Jack took her hand. The rain had stopped, but water still dripped from the trees. Stars glittered overhead in a clear sky. Silently, Jack and Annie left the Rock Creek wood. They walked up the dark street to their house and climbed the steps to their porch. Before they went inside, they looked out again at the night. "Time might have stopped for the Titanic," Jack said, "but books and memories keep the Titanic alive, don't they? It's a true story, but it's also like a myth now." "Yeah," said Annie, "and every time the story told, we wish it had a different ending." Jack nodded. That was exactly how he felt. Staring at the starry night sky, he shuddered at the memory of the sinking ship. He knew that he and Annie were lucky. They had come home. "Good night, Titanic," he said softly. "Goodbye." He and Annie slipped quietly into their house, where it was cozy and dry and very safe. So I already read the book. If you like this video, please subscribe and like, okay? So bye-bye everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. So bye-bye.